Hello everyone, Reginald Scott here, welcome to the video. Today you join me on my titanium bike because today's video is all about titanium bikes and a common question or statement that gets made in the comments section of my channel, okay? And I wanted to answer that question / statement today because, like I say, a lot of people ask this. A lot of people seem a little bit confused, and I think to the majority of you out there, because I think I know my viewers quite well from the comments I get, you guys are pretty intelligent, and I think most of you already worked this out for yourselves. Certainly those of you who already ride titanium bikes probably have worked this out. But it seems to be something that eludes a lot of people who are still caught up in the mainstream marketing mindset. And it is a little bit of a conspiracy theory today. Tiny bit. Not a major conspiracy theory. Not a big one. I've got a big one coming that involves Hanbini and a certain Chinese manufacturer. And this conspiracy theory is big. Like, it's really big. It's just a theory, but, you know, I shall disclose more later. Anyway, it's going to be a bit noisy today to begin with because we're heading into the city centre. I need to do that in order to get where we're going, which is quite a nice ride. But, like I say, I have to fight my way through the city centre traffic first. So I do apologise if things get a little bit noisy. I'll probably cut a lot of it out later in the editing phase. But hopefully you just enjoy the view. By the way, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share with a friend. Thank you very much. Okie dokie. We're just going to move across here. This is a 50 zone, but people go much faster than 50. I'm doing 43, so 44, 48. Okay, I've got to move to the right. There's a lot of cars. I'll wait for the last car to go. There we go, and now I can move over. Going to do a bit of a bunny hop here. There we go. That was a bad one. I'll do another one. That's better. Hey, that was a good one. Man, the cornering on this bike is so stable. Love it. Absolutely love it. Right, let's talk about titanium bikes. So, the big question that I get asked by people all the time on YouTube, especially when I say that titanium bikes are the best bikes you can buy, and especially when I made the video that the T1 SL, the bike I'm riding now, is the world's best performance bike, people always come back, well not always, but a lot of people come back with, well, if that's true, how come you don't see them in the Pro Tour, right? Or they say, well, that can't be true because if it were true, pro athletes would be using titanium bikes. And I want to answer this question today because these people are fundamentally misinterpreting the world around them. This is why it's kind of a little bit of a conspiracy, because it involves big companies, it involves money, and it involves power, right? So let's answer that question today once and for all. Why aren't pro athletes, if titanium bikes are so good as I say they are
you really as good as they all say you are?
Every once in a while.
Why aren't pro athletes riding on them? Now, I know a lot of you right now, as I say, are thinking, oh, come on, you know, this is obvious. But it's not obvious to a lot of people, especially those who have been completely bought into the marketing guff which is spit out by all these companies, right? Telling you what technology and what things are best, telling you what you need to use in order to be a good rider or a fast rider, right? So, the first point to make is professional riders don't buy their own bikes. They are sponsored. Okay, so all their bikes and equipment are sponsored. Just let this ambulance go by. Like I say, normally this route is actually quite nice and quite quiet, but today it's a little bit hectic for some reason. Like, normally when I cross over on the bridge there's no cars, and today there was like a whole stream of cars coming past me. But whatever. Yeah, they don't choose their own equipment. So even if a pro cyclist wanted to ride a titanium bike, they don't get that luxury because it's not up to them. The brand of the bike comes from the team sponsor, and without the sponsors, the race doesn't happen. So essentially, it's about money. Okay, that's the first part.
People forget that professional bike racing is a business, and it's a big business which involves massive marketing schemes. These massive marketing events are called bike races, and we know them as the Tour de France or the Vuelta a España or the Giro d'Italia, for example. In these big marketing events, we are bombarded with all the latest tech and equipment that is pushed towards the consumer, the stuff that these big businesses want us to buy. The question you have to ask yourself is, when big businesses are making decisions about what products to market, what products to produce, what products to try and sell to you, are they really considering whether these products are the best products they could be making? Or in reality, are they actually thinking, how cheaply can we make these things? How easy is it to get access to the material? How quickly can we modify these things to make them look different for next year? And how long will these things last? Can we introduce any inbuilt obsolescence or proprietary equipment that we can then stop supporting in a short period of time so that people are forced to start buying new bikes again? These are the real questions big business ask. They don't ask, are these products actually better? They don't ask, are these products actually faster? For those who claim that modern aero disc bikes are faster than the bikes we had before, or indeed they are faster than what we could produce out of metal, I would call your attention to the fact that the only evidence we have for this is the average speed of the Tour de France winner over the years. And this is extremely flawed data. Number one, it doesn't take into account leaps forward in technology of doping. Number two, it doesn't account for the geography of each bike race. Some bike races will include longer descents during the race and therefore will have an artificially high average speed. It doesn't account for the fact that the Tour de France has actually been decreasing in length over the years. It doesn't account for the fact there may have been adverse weather conditions during the event or favourable weather conditions during the event. And it doesn't account for the fact that the training and diet of athletes have been steadily improving over the years that might just be leading to fitter, better cyclists. All these things cannot prove that disc brake aero bikes are indeed faster than the bikes we had before, and therefore claiming that carbon bikes are just better because they're faster basically has no basis in any evidence whatsoever.
The second part is the kind of money that you need to sponsor a professional cycling team, should I say, in the Pro Tour is in the millions of dollars, right? You know, the team bus alone costs several $1 million. So you're looking for companies with that kind of money. And the companies with that kind of money are all carbon bike manufacturers. In comparison with titanium, carbon is just overrated plastic. And the reason why carbon bike manufacturers make so much money is because every year they can come out with a slightly different bike shape by just creating a new mold. Once they have a new mold, they can pump carbon bikes out several by the hour, right? Whereas if you want to make a titanium bike, it's going to take you a couple of days. You know, that's the difference. It's a bit like the Germans during the Second World War, right? The Germans had really good tanks and really good guns, and like the German technology for their weaponry was actually really advanced. I'm not saying the Allied technology wasn't, it was also pretty good. And the reason the Germans lost the war, one of the biggest reasons, is because the Allied tanks were cheap and kind of disposable, right? The Russian tanks were like as cheap as you could make them. They were so badly made that they leaked, that the armor panels on the tanks didn't even like connect, they had gaps in them. The welding was so ugly and poor. The engines, you know, barely worked. The gun sights were the most basic gun sights. The Germans, on the other hand, had, you know, Zeiss Swiss-made optical lenses, and they had fantastic, you know, armor, and all their welds were perfect.
How pretty your tank is looking today.
I just gave it a polish.
But the Germans managed to produce like one tank for every 100 or even thousands of tanks that the Allies produced. So in the end, the Germans lost because their product was too good, right? It was too expensive, it was too hard to make, it was too slow. So that is why carbon bike manufacturers beat titanium manufacturers, because titanium manufacturers can't pump out bikes at the same rate as carbon bike manufacturers, okay? And because the carbon bikes are so easy to change, so easy to make new molds for, and almost require zero skill to make, right? You know, some poor Chinese person pushing carbon fiber into a mold is not skilled like a 30-year experienced titanium hand welder. It's a completely different game. You know, you have to be a skilled welder in order to make a titanium bike. So everything is against titanium bikes, but a bit like the German tanks, not exactly, but a bit, the titanium bike is a superior product. It's a better made product, it's a more precise product, and it's gonna last. I understand that in a capitalist system, the product that wins, okay, the product that rises to the top and becomes dominant is not always the best product, okay? I can give you some examples of this. Back when Microsoft and Apple were in their infancy, you know, when they were both very new companies, Apple made way better computers than Microsoft.
I mean, if you look at operating systems in the market, you know, Windows is the #1 operating system, but certainly not the best. The best operating system in the world is arguably Linux. Apple's new OS is also extremely competitive, but they're still a distant 2 and 3 to Windows. The best product doesn't always win. The best perceived product is the one that wins in the market.
So when you go out and you buy a carbon bike, the reason why you're buying a carbon bike, why everyone is telling you to buy a carbon bike, is because that's what makes the company's money. And if someone decides to become a titanium manufacturer, they're doing it for the passion, not for the money, because Lightspeed could make way more money just making carbon. If they were a carbon manufacturer, they could do that. But they choose not to. They choose to specialize in titanium because that's what they're passionate about. And that's why all titanium manufacturers are small companies, are very skilled, very passionate people that do it for the love. And that's what I want from my bike. I want a bike that's made with love, not slave labor. My bike right now is, oh God, it must be 3 or 4 years old now, the frame that is. And my titanium frame looks as new as it did the day I bought it. If I gave you this frame, right, just the bare frame, and asked you to guess the age of the frame, like how many years it had been used on the road, you wouldn't be able to guess because it's completely undamaged. There's not a scratch on it. You know, if there's a scratch, I polish the scratch. And I can lean it against things, I can drop it, it's not a problem. It's not going to damage the frame. Whereas carbon bikes, and I see this because I work in a bike shop and I see bikes coming in every day. The carbon bikes, after about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, they look absolutely trashed. Now, obviously there are guys out there riding around on 10-year-old carbon bikes that are in pretty good condition, right? And they look after them really well, and that's great. But if you start taking the wheels out, you know, and checking around where the dropouts are, and you check under the fork and all this kind of thing, you start to find evidence of age and damage. Things just, you know, carbon things, they're just not built to last. So that's another reason why manufacturers prefer carbon. Because when you buy a fancy carbon bike, right, you're buying this year's model. And this year's model is a certain color and a certain design. And like in a few months' time, even if you try and buy the same bike, it will come with different kit on it. It will come with a different color scheme, you know, and even some aspects of the bike might change, like the seat post design or the headset design, right? And so when you go out on the group ride, after 1 year, everybody knows that your bike is old. Everybody. Even if there's nothing wrong with the bike, right? But when I ride up to the group ride, because nobody really knows anything about titanium bikes, nobody knows how old my bike is. I could have bought it yesterday. Doesn't matter. Because titanium bikes, they don't age. They all look basically how they looked on the day of production. You know what I mean? And because they're not painted, they don't come in a standard colorway that everyone recognizes. You know, people will be like, oh, that's a 2008 Specialized bike because they only produced that color in 2008. Well, my bike is titanium color. It'll always be titanium color, and everyone else riding around on a titanium bike is also titanium color. So, you know, you can get them custom anodized, you can get them custom painted, but custom things don't look old because they're not dated. So that's another reason, psychologically, why the manufacturers prefer carbon, because they want you to feel like you need to change your bike, right? They want you to feel like you have to do it. You don't have a choice, you know, you get peer pressured, right? Cyclists are really bitchy. Like, cyclists are some of the bitchiest people out there. They'll look down on you for everything. You know, what helmet you use, what, like, if you shave your legs, what sock, like what bloody sock length that you use, right? That is one that really annoys me. Okay, if you're wearing aero socks and they make you faster, I'm okay with that. I'm down with that. That's cool. But who the hell cares? Like, come on. Anyway, like I say, cyclists are very bitchy people. And they'll bitch about you. They'll say, oh, I see you're still using rim brakes, or oh, why are you still using that old bike, you know? And titanium people, we don't give a S about what people think. We just don't care. That's why we ride titanium bikes. Anyway, so carbon bikes are great for the manufacturers because you're going to have to replace it. You're going to replace it because it's too old, it's worn out, you broke it, or because your friends who you think you like and you respect told you to change it. So you'll change and you'll do it and you'll buy the latest bike because someone told you had to. Otherwise you were going to get left behind, right? The idea that a titanium bike couldn't win the Tour de France is ridiculous. This bike right now is lighter, more reliable, yeah, more comfortable, responsive, fast accelerating, fantastically handling. This would dominate in the Tour de France. And I know that because the closest thing to these kind of bikes is the lightweight rim brake bikes that were absolutely dominating the pro peloton during the transition from rim to disc brake, right? And anyone using like a rim brake bike still was absolutely bloody dominating. They were getting up all the mountains first. I remember one year on the Giro d'Italia, I sat down to watch it, and in the end, and this was when the peloton was made 80% of the peloton was disc brake. and it was the rim brake lightweight climbing bikes, because they were all like the disc brake bikes or the aero bikes, right? And it was the rim brake climbing bikes that were positioned 1, 2 and 3 after the race. So this is a lightweight rim brake bike, is easily as good as any, you know, Colnago, any Giant, anything you want to name. And it's comfortable, it's super comfy. Like, because it soaks up all that road vibration really well. So I think you'd feel fresher on this than you would on a carbon bike. The fact that you don't see titanium bikes in the World Tour has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with how good titanium bikes are. There's equipment out there that you can buy and use that would make you faster and would make any cyclist in the Pro Tour faster, but they're not allowed to use it because of the UCI, right? So by saying, oh well, if you don't see something in the Pro Tour, that means it's not good, that's not true, is it? Because there's a bunch of equipment out there that is really good, but you don't see it in the UCI Pro Tour because the UCI have banned it. So the logic that you're using here doesn't make sense. It's a bit like Lisa Simpson and Homer. You know, there's a scene in The Simpsons where Lisa convinces Homer that a common rock she found on the floor keeps away tigers.
Ah, not a bear in sight. The Bear Patrol must be working like a charm.
That's specious reasoning, Dad.
Thank you, honey.
By your logic, I could claim that this rock keeps tigers away.
How does it work?
It doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
It's just a stupid rock.
Uh-huh.
But I don't see any tigers around here, do you?
Lisa, I want to buy your rock.
Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. That was really fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you could hear what I was saying. And as always, when you're out riding, do try to stay safe. I shall see you in the next video.